Right, okay. What I will speak will be more in the way of a discussion and ideas. I have titled it as the state and its identities. That's more for myself. Maybe the paper did not bear that out, but I need something to start off with. So I call it the state and its identities. Over the past few weeks, I was in this cold office in Edinburgh. I'm in a fellowship there at the university. Cooped up in that office. I've been watching from a distance the battle over the private medical university set up just outside Colombo in Sri Lanka. You know, hearing news, looking at posts over this private medical college, which the students are fighting. The university, the Teachers Federation, University Teachers Federation has been fighting it. Not with the same kind of uniformity and gusto as the students, but in little bursts of energy. And the Medical Council too, the Sri Lankan Medical Council too had been fighting it. But then, a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court ruled that the Sri Lankan Medical Council has to recognize the graduates of this particular private university. Then the students, of course, took to the streets. Now, why is this important? Of course, this is part of the liberalization agenda of the state, for which there is massive middle class and very vocal support. As we do battles, as we take to the streets, as we do like public meetings, we also like facing this opposition from the very vocal middle class. And when I say middle class, this is not necessarily a very the upper class, elite middle class, but a fairly kind of a middle class as well. For one, people don't like doctors. And in Sri Lanka, yes, that's something. There's this, even within the university, we don't like the medical college, the doctors there, professors, because they do private practice. So they all go through the state system, which is free. And then once they're qualified, they are like pleasing the public. So there's this tension. So the doctors take to the set, doctors say this. And I must also say, the Sri Lankan Medical Council, the Government Medical Organization, Medical Officers Association, the GMOA, which is against this private university, there's a monopolistic interest involved. We have to recognize that if you have to talk to the people, public about it as well. But for FUTA, the trade union I am attached to, and also the other organizations I'm attached to, formally and informally, this is part of the privatization of university. So that is one. I've been watching this from Edinburgh. I've also been watching, again from a distance, continued demonstrations held by displaced Tamils in a particular area over broken promises given by the state, I don't know when, but in different times, that the land in which they were living and had claims to would be, and taken away by the Navy, would be returned, and had not. The displaced who are living in Cape Papulam, they're continuing protests, which are very emotional for me, which are, because you see this destitute people without, who are not being able to go back to their land. These are the people who suffered the worst of the last stages of war, and also had lived under the tyranny of the LTT, so continued to struggle without any relief. So these two demonstrations, two different kinds of demonstrations, one by the students and the displaced people. They pose their continuing protest movements and resistance to the state. But they do also pose a problem of identity that needs to be unraveled. The two struggles remain unconnected. The former, that of the students and related people, is understood by many as class war. Of course, the doctors, we don't know, we'll bracket them out here for the moment, right? They're not the underprivileged. The struggle and protest of the displaced is understood purely as displaced Tamils issue. While there could be a certain overlap here, in the sense that Tamil and Muslim students too take part in the protests against the private medical university, the displaced people's protest has been seen as how the Navy has appropriated land of the Tamils, as Swastika mentioned earlier. So for me, this is a dilemma that I do not have any kind of answer to. I mean, we can very easily, at meetings like this and other meetings, we talk about the classes, the struggling classes have to come together. But if you look at the nitty-gritty of recruitment into the labor market, recruitment into maybe even universities, job at higher levels, and also ideologically, the ideological political mobilization, then this becomes an intractable situation. I'm struggling with this idea of a productive state and the productive capitalism, and bring them both together in order to delineate and discuss what possible parts of action we can have in Sri Lanka and globally as well, in terms of how we can deal with these identities, recognizing them, but also dismantling. I don't know. I want to look at where our loyalties lie, or where our, I don't know whether loyalty is a good word, where mobilizations, how do we do mobilization? And for me here, and this I pose with much thought, but also theoretically, but also emotionally. For me, I look at the discursively in our ideas of what the ethnic war had been, what the mobilization, what class means, all of that. I see the Muslim polities as not fitting anywhere, and I want to hold on to something of that productivity. Should we look at Muslims as the center, as being at the center of this conflict, just even for the sake of the discussion? One cannot disclaim that Tamils have suffered a lot in the last war, in the north and east, and that they have suffered as Tamils during the war. And that is how their disposition takes any meaning at the present moment. It's not purely a class war. Maybe it is, but that's very difficult to understand it. One may and can underline this disposition as class disposition. Because if you go to certain singular dominant areas, they would tell similar stories of land appropriation by the Navy. They would say they came and took away our land, chased us off, burnt our villages. Yeah? And particularly in the East, which also has certain tourist potential and investment potential. But seeing disposition as class disposition has not been productive politically. We have not been able to mobilize on that. Sinhala and Tamil identities remain and have been mobilized successfully around ethnicity. And this, yeah. Now, why do we want to look at the Muslims as historically important for understanding the Muslim polity? When the Muslims demanded that their right to be resettled after the war, when the Muslims demanded that they be given, part of the, they are given an important and foremost, or whatever it is, first or second or third place in the priority list of being resettled, people came up with so many other issues, such as the most affected are the Tamils, because there are 280,000 in the Manic farm and they have to be resettled. Whereas the Muslims, I'm talking the northern Muslims, about 70 or 1,000 were evicted. Not all wanted to go back, but so when the Muslims made this demand, everybody said, no, but we have 280,000 in abysmal condition in this Manic farm. We cannot. We have to return them first. And the Muslims said, leadership, others, activists, whatever it is. When I say Muslims said, I'm referring to a few people. Yeah, but then we will lose our claim once all these people have been gone. They have been resettled. So maybe we should be given priority. Maybe, I don't know. That's what I thought. This contesting claims, how do we, make place for this contesting claims? On the contrary, what happened when they made the demand? Resettlement of Muslims in the north has been viewed with suspicion, open animosity, and the fanning of anti-Muslim sentiments by dominant Tamil parties in varying degrees. Muslim concerns had always been lesser in the reckonings of the 30-year-old war. Throughout, they had to fight for a place under the ethnic sun in Sri Lanka. Except in sporadic instances, the Muslims could not claim victim status in the liberal radical imagination of activist groups, international actors and powers. North and East Muslims remain invisible as political victims. The complexity of relations in the east of Sri Lanka, in which Muslims are cast as a powerful and hostile polity, to the impoverished status of a larger number of Tamils, made it even more kind of difficult to talk about Muslims as people who need to be understood as actors and where titles, claims. So I'm here turning to the observations of an activist on an event held in October 2016 to commemorate the eviction of Muslims from the north in 1990. So in 1990, the 70-odd thousand, or 75 or 80,000 Muslims were evicted from the north by the LTT. This is every year, like July 83, there would be some event commemorating that. Usually they are much smaller. There's very little attention, any publicity given in the media, but the Muslim politics will have something. This time, there was an event in Colombo, and they invited two of the leaders of the Tamil Nationalist Party who had been sympathetic to the concerns, who had shown some and more sympathy. And this activist talks about how he felt let down, because every time when you start talking about Muslim rights, the discussion turns to a discussion on Muslim leadership. Whereas Tamils and Sinhalese have become people, distinct from the leadership, both from the LTT to some extent, and also the Tamil national parties. The Muslims are put together. One speaks of the leadership when one speaks of the Muslim polity. So this activist has written, Mr. Sumandran, who is actually, I must say, he's not the villain here, but so the disappointment is greater when it comes from somebody who was seen as sympathetic to the. I need to say, flag that, otherwise it will be misunderstood. Mr. Sumandran questioned the genuinity of many Muslim leaders when they do resettlement activities in the north. On his remark on ethnic cleansing that he did last year, he said that he had been criticized by Tamils, and he said that Tamils asking why Muslim leadership have failed to acknowledge the massacre of Tamils. Mr. Sumandran has continued the line of thinking of Mr. Sumandran and indicated that the failure of Muslim leadership to align with Tamil leadership to protect the north and east as Tamil homeland. Neither spoke on the aspirations of the northern Tamils and the role of Tamil polity. Now, I was speaking about this and the difficulties Tamil activists, not Tamil politicians in the kind of conventional sense, but Tamil progressive activists have in taking on and actually working on Muslim issues. I was speaking to an activist, and I felt his frustration at not being able to go far in working with the Muslims in the northern city of Jaffna. And I do not have any answer, but something I could hazard is the concerns of the Muslims cannot be an addendum to some larger concern of the displaced, which is framed today as Tamil people's concerns, displaced Tamils. Looking at the television images of the displaced in Cape Papua protesting and the widespread attention it is attracting in the media, I could not help noting with sadness and disappointment that I could not wholeheartedly share in the anguish of the protesters. And I was disappointed with myself. Now, what are the possibilities that this disappointment, this disruption, I want it to be a productive kind of thing, not be guilt-ridden, not be like, oh, what shall we do? Everybody is suffering, kind of thing. Some of the possibilities that I can think of are dealing the concerns of the displaced and the struggles of the Tamils from the idea of Tamil homeland and the North and East merger. There's very quick kind of, North and East as it's very difficult. We are using terms that may point that are unfamiliar. North and East is seen as the Tamil land. So when Tamils who are, in the most kind of the precarious in terms of current Marxist parlance, who are going to be left out of neoliberal progress, when they protest, do we understand it as that, or we understand it as, we need the Tamil homeland to be there so these people can have their land, So dealing that. Look at land not as a commodity that can be alienated, because this is like part of the development programs that are happening, but something that has to be shared. Left to themselves, the people in the former war-torn areas are more willing to share than the nationalist mediators at the higher levels. I mean, I did a long, kind of extended project, research project with women in the war-torn areas a few years back. We talked to 75 women in various forums. And what I could figure out was that it's not that they were nice or they're politically correct or they had like, oh, we will all share with Sinhalese and Muslims. I mean, it's not anything like that. But you could see that they're much more willing to give have a give and take policy on land, possession, other things, on political identities itself. But that is never translated into action. That doesn't. I mean, when the Muslim now, in the eyes of the state, Tamils and Muslims are seen in kind of particular ways. Tamils are still a potent threat to the state's integrity. So it fears and tries to address in countervailing ways this perceived threat. PTA, the Prevention of Terrorism Act, has it been taken away? No,
it's been.
No, that's a different. Yeah, I know. PTA is going through. So there has been a lot of protest about the Prevention of Terrorism Act, which was brought about in '79. Now it's going through. So the government wanted to resign, do away with it, but because I think mainly because of pressure, it's also being reformed in the more or less the same way. Now the state will of course use this against the students protesting against the private medical college, and they don't protest only against private medical college, they protest against so many other things that impinge on free education. And I just wrote to somebody a post today saying, we might have another bloodbath, be careful. I mean, this is, and I'm not sure, whether the government is aware that, they can't produce, they can't kind of, create these programs that are going to, in the long term, dispossess large segment, the population as such, by rolling back on free education and free health. Free education they will not touch that easily. What they are going to do is they are going to bring private universities, and there are now international schools also. And so they may not really, do away with free education. But there's a lot of pressure on the universities in Sri Lanka to have private partner projects. And we are resisting that. And they are also trying to introduce voucher systems in the healthcare system. They've already introduced it. But I don't know whether it's going to be successful. It might not be. Because the Sri Lankan people are used to free health. And I have a feeling they will continue to demand that at many levels. But the middle classes might latch on to this. And what we can do is then, run the hospitals. Today, the government hospitals are the biggest, the most equipped, except for one or two, the best equipped hospitals, but they might just run them down. So, the But now coming back to the Tamils and Muslims, the state views the Tamils as a continued threat to its integrity. Muslims are interlopers in the natural state of order for both Sinhalese and Tamils in the nationalism. They are interlopers in terms of the environment. So if Sri Lanka is a Sinhala Buddhist country and Tamil North and East is for Tamils the Tamil homeland, some are Muslim disrupt that natural order. And it's in the environmentalist cry of, the environmental, and there are some people I know I've worked with, they also say, oh my goodness, these people are destroying the forest. So there's this environmentalist agenda that also looks at the Muslims as somehow not belonging. In the victim-victimizer hierarchy, too, they are interlopers because they have to fight to make their voice heard. There had been strong anti-Muslim action made in the similar south, in the south of the country in which Tamils are not involved, and that is growing. Sometimes there'll be some big thing and then it'll kind of abate, but it'll, some other riot somewhere and it'll abate. But in sentiment, it has not abated, and it's really scary because we also have Modi. Yeah, Tamil nationalist parties had not been able to fight, for Muslim, Muslim return, even in areas where Tamils are not involved. So where Muslims have had to fight for land, against the state in some other place, they have not been able. Tamil nationalist parties, although there were pockets of Tamils also in that same struggle involved, they were not able to. And Muslim nationalist parties, they do their own thing. I mean, I don't know whether any of you know, there's one leader of the Muslims, Rashad Badruddin, who is really happy with that development happening, because this means more and more Muslims are going to vote for him. So the more you alienate and kind of, ghettoize, it's better for Rashad. I mean, it might not be in the long term for anybody, but in the short term. Right, I'm going to stop.
Thank you very much. That is a very thought-provoking presentation. So now let's open up for questions to all the speakers.